Thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective. If you're representing a brand, even your own, and your reputation is under attack, then everything you value is at risk. You may be feeling heat on social channels, in the media, or ways that you don't even know and need help navigating through treacherous waters. Why is this so important? Because overwhelmingly, statistics show that customers make buying decisions based on online reviews. On today's show, we'll discuss the differences between online reputation management and SEO, how media and technology intermingle and come together to form the perception that customers have of your brand. Our guest, Eric Schiffer, is the CEO of Reputation Management Consultants, a leader in online reputation management. A subject matter expert, he frequently appears on Fox News, Fox Business, CNN, NPR, The Washington Post, and many others speaking about this very subject. So if you're being attacked by internet trolls and keyboard warriors, then you may need more than the Avengers to protect your brand. Fins up as we speak with Eric Schiffer on A Shark's Perspective. Thank you, Eric, for joining us on A Shark's Perspective this week. And I would love to talk to you about reputation management, especially as it sort of lives in the digital space. But can you kind of define the parts that go into what makes up reputation management?
Well, it's great to be with you. Absolutely. I think it depends upon, number one, what it is that you're trying to accomplish. So if it's for the purposes of building a brand, wanting to be positioned in a certain way, then there's a set of processes that you follow. Alternatively, if you're dealing with a crisis, where someone has attacked you or the media has come at you or there's been some incident from your past that has caused an issue, you have a different set of processes. So the first thing that we look at whenever we're involved in any kind of reputation management is we'll sit down with the client and really try to understand the story and what's happened to get them to where they are today and what is it that they want to see happen? Is it that they want just the pain to go away, or are they looking to really position themselves in a very powerful way for the future?
Well, so I'm really curious. This is not a discipline that necessarily everybody truly works in or understands. I mean, so many people gravitate towards, paid search or TV commercials or some sort of ad creative or SEO. I've seen you so many times on Fox News, Fox Business. You're a trusted advisor that people go to for reputation management issues, brands especially. How do you decide in your career to go towards reputation management? How did that discipline light up for you and said, I got to start a company and
Sure.
really dive into this?
Yeah, it's interesting. My father is a brain surgeon. My mom is a college calculus professor, and they met at a brain surgeon dance, and apparently I was the spawn. And I was always interested in technology. They bought me an Apple II computer back when I was, I think, 10 years old. And I remember ripping it apart and teaching myself how to code. And so technology always interests me, and media always interests me. And having been a serial entrepreneur, I learned and was very experienced in media. One of the first really people that became a mentor to me was Charlotte Parker, who ran and was responsible for building up Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I got to know Arnold, and I understood really the essence of brand building through, I think, one of the smartest brand builders that the world has ever seen. And that, I think, was pretty important to me because I got to see the behind the scenes. I saw the mechanics. I understood how it works. And that led to, other areas of marketing in which it wasn't necessarily PR or reputation management, but what it was an understanding of how to help brands and how to help individuals achieve goals digitally. We get a call one day back in 2006, 2007, from a woman on the east coast of Canada who was crying on the phone. She had been torpedoed nuclear style by a vicious competitor who wanted to put her head on a stick and literally bury her business and crush it. And she asked, is there anything, Mr. Schiffer, is there anything that you can do to help to save me? And I was very, direct with her. I said, look, we know algorithms very well. We understand how to affect them. But what you're looking for, we haven't specifically done. However, I'm interested in it, and I'd be interested in trying to take it on. And I think I could help you, but I can't guarantee it, right? And she was very grateful. Within 2 months, we completely eliminated the problems that she was dealing with online. It took her from the precipice of bankruptcy to what has continued to be a thriving business. I still get cards and letters from her every now and then, at least every year, and thanking me and sharing how grateful she's been. But what that taught me was I was onto something, and it kind of stumbled right into my lap. I'd always visualized about that kind of an arena, but there never was a business. And even at that time in 2007, Google was not the seminal, sun that everyone orbits around like it is today in terms of identification and management of who your identity is, right? It just wasn't. People wouldn't Google you back then. They wouldn't vet you through that process. There were a lot of different platforms to be able to determine who someone was, but that just wasn't the normal practice. People weren't reflexively oriented that way. And sure enough, I felt like, I may have something here. Now, it was one of those situations where you build it and they're going to come, and no one came. I mean, there was a year and a half where we struggled with that brand. There just wasn't the demand. And over time, what we decided to do was if we're going to do this, we're going to do it upstream. So we started focusing on major personalities, captains of industry, some of the richest men and women in the world, some of the most successful people in the world, some of the biggest artists in Hollywood and music and television. And that's where we put our emphasis, and building technology around servicing and helping those kind of individuals, which I enjoyed. And I had a lot of relationships already with many. So it was a natural entree to say, look, you're dealing with this. Why don't we help you? Or I'm doing these things and people would be interested. That then grew the platform for what has been a very successful organization where we've helped thousands of people.
So since then, if you think of how this lady was torpedoed, talk a little bit about how reputation, especially in the digital ecosystem, has changed. I mean, that long ago, we're just 11 years north of when Facebook was invented. Yelp hasn't been in existence that long compared to years ago. Piss Consumer, Hiya, Consumer Affairs, all these kind of .com sites that are out there for generating reviews have sprouted up. And if you would talk a little bit about how the ecosystem has changed, and then talk a little bit about the need to address those types of channels.
Yeah. Well, I think what happened was, as this natural progression toward people's desire to capture information and truth and find and determine what truth was in today's environment, there was also a demand for trusted sources of it. So Google was one, but there were many other niche sources. So you had companies like Yelp that came to be, and Google had its own review system and platform. And for, I think, severe offenders, you'd have other sites that were more specific to complaints, okay? And they all were trying to tap, in essence, the same thing, which is to provide a vehicle and a medium that people could determine who they could trust. So it was really a trust filter in the end of the day. The ability to hierarch who were the most trustworthy, most proficient people in any specific keyword-related vertical. So if you're talking about painting, or you were talking about software development, or it was in the legal profession, there were categories for people to go after. That was interesting because what it did was it allowed for a brand to begin to not only be able to hyper-focus its brand within a cluster of people that could largely be payers, but also one that you needed to be defensive about because you had to protect yourself. It was a zero-sum game. And in certain cases, you'd have competitors that might lambaste you within these for competitive purposes. Or conversely, you'd have situations in which competitors knew that they could benefit from the contrast, so that if they had a lot of reviews and your brand didn't, they'd win the bake-off even though every one of you were getting the same lead, meaning consumers might go to 4 or 5 brands, but they ultimately would look at the review side. So that changed things in a big way because what it did was it gave the perception of third-party vetting that in certain cases was massively manipulated in the early stages. And two, it also, I think, gave brands the ability to, without spending a lot of money, suddenly becoming a player. And it gave huge headaches to large brands who largely in the past didn't care about customer support and customer service or even the type of consistency and quality that their brand would put out. And it made them literally, in certain cases, subservient to some of these brands that didn't have the kind of revenues that some of these larger mammoth companies would have. But because they managed the customer relationship better, they had more power. And that was a game changer. And so we also got involved in that process in terms of assisting within the rules and within what is ethical and appropriate to be able to assist a brand build up their presence within these platforms and be able to be a player within them.
What you alluded to earlier really makes me think, because I, as a customer for any big brand, I don't really care how large they are. I just want to be taken care of to fill my needs. And if I don't see where that's being taken care of, especially online, then it helps me lose interest in that brand. And I remember back when I got really a lot more interested in this last year, I found an Inc. magazine article that I picked up that showed, and I'm sure you've got similar type stats, but they put out an article. Research showed that about 9 out of 10 people regularly read online reviews, and there was another stat that said something like 84% trust those reviews as much as a personal recommendation, which I just thought was amazing, that you could trust a review from Bob in Sheboygan if you, Sally, lived in Sarasota, not knowing who Bob is or why that brand mattered to him. What was also extremely interesting in that article is that they said that 68% form an opinion after reading 1 to 6 online reviews. So people are seeing what they see, taking it all in, and as a whole making a pretty substantial opinion as to buy or to not buy.
Yeah. So, look, as humans, we are wired for social proof, and what that really means is we are, in order for us to make decisions, for the purposes of expediency as well as for survival, we look to see what others are doing. We look to see how people are treating certain things. So we know what's safe. We know who to stay away from. We know who's valued. And this has gone on for millions of years. And when you consider the sapien evolution, this is just a modern day extension of what we've done for millions of years as a species. And I think what you're seeing is going to continue to morph and change, et cetera. I also think there's a component of the fact that it's perceived to be media, even though it's not. And it's also perceived, and I think through a prism of the fact that people are well conditioned to social networking. So they're used to reading things from their friends. They're used to connecting emotionally with people through digital prose. And the reading of it internalizes. And I think also people have spent years now shopping based upon reviews, so that's also a conditioned element. So when you stack these together, it makes sense that that's where we are today, and I think it will change. There will be other stamps of ways to know what is going on in your environment and who you can trust and what are the right choices to make. But it's fascinating how and what a big impact it's had, especially over the last 5 years. And it's been a game changer to brands. So brands, again, that were didn't have the financing, didn't have the huge war chests, weren't able to compete with a mammoth brand, can now stack up. They can suddenly become a player based upon quality and based upon their focus on reputation, their intent to ensure that they get the reputation right, that they're ensuring that what shows up against the competitors is not only truthful, but it's representative of the volume of quality in terms of the numbers of people that they've been able to delight through their services. And that's evident for the world to see.
Fantastic point. And what I'd really like to ask you now is, when you think about what brands pay agencies, and this could be social agencies, could be a PR agency, might be a different SEO firm. What are the differences? And I'm not asking you to give too much of the secret sauce away, but what are the high level differences that a company like yours or a reputation management in general would take that basically trumps what those efforts are like, and how are they similar and how are they different?
Well, I think that it's a good question. I think it really depends upon who the brand is, and what their level of sophistication and savvy is, and also what their goals are. So, I mean, if their goal is just to have is to clean up a problem, as I said before, there's a series of technologies that we have developed that support us in being able to accomplish that. That is white hat. That is consistent with Google's best practices and the other search engines' best practices, and allows for us to be able to get an efficiency process that, based upon years of experience, employs a methodology that is effective. And it's effective at ensuring that the best quality content, the most credible content, the best written content is the type of content that you're going to see first. And that's where we focus. That's how we accomplish that.
So, if you're a brand other than just a major crisis, when is it a good idea for a brand to bring on a reputation management consulting firm like yours? When is it a good time to start engaging them? Is it at the point of crisis? Is it well before? What are the kind of the guidelines that you give to brands that you speak to on a normal basis?
Yeah. That's a good question. I think as early as you can, when you have a specific growth plan that is significant. So if you're trying to go from 5 million to 50 million over a 3-year span, or 10 million to 20 million over a 1-year span, or you're a startup and you're at 2 million and you want to scale very fast, you must consider all of the ways in which you're perceived and ensure that at every channel of discovery that someone may do within the click stream, that you have thought through at a core level who you are, what you represent, what are the principles and elements that exist behind the brand, and that those are represented digitally through the right prose, through the right visuals, and through the right range and rainbow of options that are going to present you in such a way that only reinforces your credibility and trust as a transparent provider and partner of services that will be meaningful to your core prospect.
Well, I'm really glad you explained that, because there's so many times that even I get lumped into thinking that you're supposed to engage only when you're being attacked by, keyboard warriors and internet trolls. But it's not just that on social, and I think that's where a lot of people get lost in looking at the perceived notion of when to engage a firm like yours.
Yeah, well, I think that's true, and I think pain is a great driver, and certainly when you're under attack, you can feel it because you'll begin to start seeing deals go, and people will lose opportunities, and so they immediately can translate that to ROI. The softer element is, how do you take the building of your brand online and translate that into meaningful dollars? Well, I think there are different ways that you can. I think you can look at conversion, for instance. You can consider the fact that as you begin to build up assets or stories in the media, for instance, or specific opinion pieces or byline articles, those are all assets in and of themselves that can be leveraged in many different ways, not only online in terms of your image, but also in terms of being able to, when people go to a specific site that you may control, maybe it's your home site, it's your website, you can leverage those as icons of credibility for greater conversion. Now, that's a measurable item, right? You know that had you not had them, you might have X conversion, meaning you send 100 people to the site, 3 out of 100 might send in a form or place a phone call, but you add these other assets visually and with links, and suddenly you're at 4 or 5 out of 100. So that's a return on investment that's quantifiable. You also can take the work that you're doing online and the assets that you build up on behalf of your reputation and distribute them. You can distribute them through social. You can distribute them through email marketing, which to me continues to be one of the most powerful forms of marketing, believe it or not, especially when done well, because you're tapping into, again, human behavior, and you're being able to build a personal one-on-one relationship with someone, all the way to content marketing. And that's a whole emerging arena that's extremely powerful and works and it's effective, to the world of just offline presentation, where you're collecting these assets and then you can present them in the form of proposals or other documents.
So true, and it really takes into the whole ecosystem that a brand has for basically cross-channeling those types of stories. Content is still such a big piece of this. So tell us, in your opinion, walk us through what is happening in content marketing today.
I think it's one of the most undertapped arenas of building and expanding upon brand and reputation that exists. And I think that it will only get that. It's only going to get that much more powerful. I own many companies. One of the brands that I own is called ContentMarketer.com, and what Content Marketer does is really several things. We have a cadre of writers that used to work, in some cases still do, on a freelance basis for publications like Fortune Magazine, the Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Bloomberg, etc. And what we do is we look at a brand and we will begin to assist a brand in understanding the different ways in which they are composed, meaning what are the key offerings that they have, what are the solutions that they provide, and how would a prospect, if they were looking for any of those solutions, type in on Google or other search engines to find them, for instance? What would be the natural kind of just generic terms that would be leveraged to find their types of solutions? And we will meet once we determine all that. Our journalists will go and interview our uh, client, and they will begin to, through a series of questions, extract all of their expertise. So all the specialized knowledge, the subject matter expertise that they have, they'll then extract from them. And the point of doing all this is, what we want to do is we want to begin to create some very high level, very sophisticated, highly engaging articles that then can be um, leveraged with various publications, niche and industry publications that we then get placed on behalf of our client. And uh, it's incredibly effective in building a relationship with prospects that already have a relationship with the publications that they get published upon. And it's that relationship, that ability to educate someone from afar that you've never met and have this one-on-one opportunity to be in their head and educating them, and in the process building trust, and through transparency and through credibility and through being able to control the message yourself, so that you're in their head, you're front and center in their head. And when they're ready to make a buying decision, you're front and center. You're in their head, and you're the first one they're going to contact. So not only do you get the traffic that comes from these publications, but again, you can push these publications out through social, email marketing, and many times, because they're in high domain authority niche and industry publications, and even in certain cases mainstream publications, you also get the search traffic. So you get a lot of demand generation benefits, and you get the ability to almost buy an annuity that at some point, a certain percentage of the people that have read your work, that have connected with what you did to educate them, who have benefited from your generosity, will reciprocate. And they're going to reciprocate not only because it's in their own interest and because you've developed a trusted relationship and they want the best and they want to go with someone that has helped them, but they also, I think, want to give you an opportunity first because of that. That's the power of content marketing.
Fantastic. So, one of my last questions, I flipped a quarter, could not decide whether or not I was going to ask you to give guidance in reputation management to Kanye West or Facebook. It landed on Facebook. So, when you look at the brand of Facebook, what kind of advice do you give a big brand like that? And I'm sure you've worked with large companies, governments. We've spoken about large brands. What kind of advice do you give to a company like that to help build back trust?
It's very difficult. I think the most important thing to do in those situations is you have to find opportunities in which you can be transparent to the nth degree. So it's all about transparency at this point, getting all the facts out, even if it's bad. And anything you do at any point moving forward must be vetted to ensure that what you're saying is true. And by doing that, and by sharing the truth, even if it's ugly, and by answering things in ways that can be validated and proven to be true, you're doing what will help you in rebuilding credibility, because people can vet it and say they wouldn't be giving all this negative stuff if it wasn't true. They will vet anything you say to ensure that it is true. And that's slowly how you gain your credibility. It's through painful truth and the revealing of painful truth and the revealing of facts and staying reverent to that. And it seems to be counterintuitive for many brands because they want to just continue to present well. But by developing trust again through truth and through transparency and through hard truth, that cuts against you at times, you begin to build back that credibility. It's all about credibility.
Well, Eric, thank you again for being on A Shark's Perspective. Tell people if they're interested in your company services, how they get in touch with you, in touch with Reputation Management Consultants.
Oh, well, sure. You can certainly get in touch with Reputation Management Consultants by going to the URL, reputationmanagementconsultants.com. I have another brand called digitalmarketing.com, which is contentmarketer.com, and then our public relations firm, interdependence.com.
And I know that we can watch you on TV talking about reputation and a crisis somewhere at some point soon. So thank you, Eric, for your time.
Thank you very much. Great to be with you.
So there was my conversation with Eric Schiffer regarding online reputation management. Let's have 3 key takeaways from that conversation. First, online reviews are a game changer. People buy most often from trusted brands, and in order to make decisions, we look to see what other people are doing. The social networks people are now conditioned to make social proofing that much more powerful. Second, brands, even small ones, can focus on their reputation and beat the bigger brands. That kind of focus is a unique solution outside of typical PR and marketing. Get an agency like Reputation Management Consultants involved early in the process in order to stay focused on your reputation. Third, by being transparent and showing the truth, even if it's a painful truth, allows people to vet you and your brand and helps you gain and even regain credibility. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to our conversation regarding another key digital component of marketing today, and join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.